After playing the newest DLC Into the Dark, I was pleasantly surprised at how good this DLC is compared to the first one. With both DLCs having the same price tag, the developer seems to have learned quite a lot and delivered a much better DLC with Into the Dark. First, I want to talk about the new biome. The DLC quest chain brings us to an underground cave system called the Crystal Cavern. The rock formation that shaped this cave system can be manually excavated by Mr. Riggs either by pressing space or simply using any explosive weapons. This allows us to dig our own pathways to traverse this subterranean biome. Being underground also limits our option to generate power, with wind turbines only usable around this small wind tunnel, and solar panels limited to the faint sunbeam coming from the surface through the cracks in the ceilings. This scarcity in power generation can be a huge challenge to build a base on a larger scale. Which is why I eventually gave up on a local power source entirely and chose to import some water from another biome and channel them into a couple of fusion reactors, then call it a day. As for the wildlife, this biome has a diverse selection of creatures. We've got some kaiju looking monster that can dig through cave walls, the usual melee and ranged mob, some armored grunts that can block, and also these glowing zombie things that can spawn from dead enemies. But the most dangerous of them all is the Necro Dogs. They can summon a new group of enemies from the ground or from dead enemies while keeping their distance. Necro Dogs can be very annoying, especially when there are several of them sending waves after waves of enemies from multiple directions. The plants, however, are a bit of a letdown. Although they do look interesting and unique to this biome, this plant can only produce basic materials like biomass, ironium and carbonium, so there is no real incentive to establish any agro-mining operation in this biome. Now let's talk about the new weapons and skills. In the first DLC we only get a couple of new weapons, the energy sword and the heavy plasma, with no new skills at all. In this DLC, the dev team gave us a wide variety of new weapons and skills, so you can already see why I like this DLC better than the last one. My favorite new weapon from this DLC has got to be the bouncing blades. Not only it shoots multiple projectiles like a shotgun, these projectiles can pierce through enemies and also bounce off walls. So it can be very effective in a cramped and narrow environment like the Crystal Cavern. We also have the Immolator, which sends out a single projectile that can explode in a wide area and set enemies on fire. If we compare it to the good old flamethrower, which only deals fire damage in a small cone, the Immolator is definitely better at controlling large crowds. And then we got the Fire Spewer. It's pretty similar to the Immolator, but this one sets the ground on fire. The area where the projectile lands on will be burning for a while, so anything that steps on it will receive fire damage. We also have the Cryo Spewer, which does the same thing, only in blue minty flavor. And of course the Acid Spewer, with its green spicy flavor, which is very effective against armored creatures. Unlike in the previous DLC, which gives you energy-based weapons in a biome where nearly everybody is resistant to energy, the new weapons from Into the Dark can actually perform really well in the biome you came with. So you can totally clear the DLC quest chain with only the DLC weapons for a fresh new experience, totally different from the base game. But let's not forget about the new melee weapon. First we have the Pickaxe. It creates a shockwave much like a hammer, only this time the shockwave is in the shape of a cone. You can use the Pickaxe to excavate the cave walls in this biome, but it tends to skip through the nearest layer of cave walls, which can be annoying at times. A hammer can also do the exact same thing, and arguably even better, so I don't really see the point of using the new Pickaxe. And then there's the Sonic Fist. At first I thought the shockwave from these could break down cave walls, but it couldn't. So to me this weapon feels like a slower version of the regular fist, or a smaller version of the Pickaxe, which I'm not exactly fond of. After completing the DLC quest chain, we will be rewarded with the blueprint for the shotgun. It's basically a machine gun, only the projectiles can shatter into smaller shards, dealing cryo damage. It sounds good in theory, until you realize that most of the creatures in this biome are resistant to cryo. So in order to bring out the best in this gun, we have to go somewhere else. We can also get new variants of the old weapons by excavating bioanomalies in the new biome. Now let's talk about the new skills. The most interesting new skill in our disposal is probably the Holo Decoy. You can use it to lure enemies into attacking it as we deal with them from a safe distance. You can create multiple Holo Decoys as well, but be sure to remember that they will disappear after taking a certain amount of damage. The Anti-Matter Wall is arguably the strongest new skill from this DLC. It sends some kind of singularity in a straight line, dealing energy damage to any enemies around its path. We also have the Flame Wave, which make a literal wave of flame in front of Mr. Riggs, and then there's the Sonic Grenades, which deal lower damage than normal grenades, but send out a larger shockwave around it. There's also the Acid Cluster Grenades, which can explode into smaller pools of acid, far effective against armored enemies. Oddly enough, being in the underground biome, we can still use Orbital Strikes. I'm not even sure how Ashley can even call in Orbital Strike in the first place, since we never saw her launching anything into orbit. My theory is that the strikes doesn't come from orbit, but rather from a short rift jump, the same way Mr. Riggs can teleport across the map. If this is true, then it would explain how the orbital laser and bombardment can penetrate into the crystal cavern despite being underground. If you have any other theories about this, feel free to let me know in the comments. Into the Dark also comes with new defensive towers, like the Portal Bomb Tower, which sends a bomb directly to enemy positions via a short rift jump. There's also the Gatling Laser Tower, a 2x2 version of the minigun with energy damage. And also the Acid Spitter Tower, which is basically an acid spewer fixed on a turret. With physical energy and acid damage, these three towers complement each other very well to repel enemy waves, even without using any other defensive towers. But my favorite new building has got to be the energy pylon, which can connect two separate power networks over great distances. I've already built an energy pylon near the fusion reactors, so we just need to build another one here. And as soon as it's built, it will connect anything in its base to the rest of the power network in the same biome. This building makes it easier to create a centralized power facility with smaller forward bases without long and messy energy connectors. Finally, let's talk about the boss fight. While the rest of the quest chain is a generic Riftbreaker mission, with Ashley and Mr. Riggs jumping into different biomes, investigating anomalies after anomalies, the boss fight is certainly a welcome change of pace. With the huge boss looming over the top of the screen, this level can be very challenging, especially with the limited space that we're provided with. But in the end, I cleared both of the boss fights with nukes without any real difficulties. Overall, the second DLC, Into the Dark, is undoubtedly a better DLC than the first one. With tons of new stuff to play with and a unique experience from the boss fights, this DLC is well worth the wait and the price. Especially when the price is the equivalent of a couple of hot dogs. This is Stein signing off.